Welcome to Human Potential at Work, the show where we explore social impact, inclusion, and empowerment of everyone, including persons with disabilities. Your host is Deborah Rue, CEO of Rue Global Impact, and co-founder and chairwoman of Billion Strong, an identity and empowerment organization designed to bring billions of voices of persons with disabilities together. To join the global community and to donate to the cause, visit billion-strong.org. That's billion-strong.org. And now, on to the episode.
Hello, everyone. My name is Deborah Rue. I'm the CEO of Rue Global Impact and the executive chair of Billion Strong, the first identity and pride organization created for the 1.3 billion people with disabilities. And today, I have somebody that I've known for a long time on social media. We haven't had the pleasure to meet in person yet, but that's going to happen soon. But I love her work. She is an example of somebody that really believes in making the world a better place. And she's really showing a lot of leadership in a lot of ways. And I will say her work isn't all about disability inclusion, but she does believe in including disadvantaged people, especially showing leadership with youth in Africa and other countries. So I think her work is very important. And I want to welcome Dr. Melissa Sassi to the show. And Melissa, thanks for joining us. Do you mind telling us a little bit about who you are? Because you're an amazing woman.
Oh, thank you. Every time I talk to you, I get this giant head of, like this ownership of, I'm doing the thing. So I'm Dr. Melissa Sassi. You can find me on Twitter at Mentor Africa with a K. I wear a lot of hats and I often overwhelm people, I think, when I talk about all the many things that I have my hands in. And I think for a long time, I didn't realize why I would always start different things and work on different things. And it just fueled my passion. And I'm already a passionate person. You could probably tell. I came out last year and shared with everyone that, hey, I'm neurodiverse. I have ADHD, and it explained it kind of explained a whole heck of a lot around, why I might be different than others in certain ways and why my strengths may be what they are, my weaknesses may be what they are. So in typical ADHD fashion, I do have my hands in a lot of buckets. I created my own job title and my own job description, really my own job at IBM. And in some ways, it goes against the grain of what some people envision when they think about a big tech company, especially IBM, that has such a long history of being stereotypically the company that would have the white shirts and the suits and everyone was homogenous. Obviously, that's changed a lot since the inception of IBM, but I run a startup accelerator within the team. I'm the founder. I am still leading it today. I have 100 startups in my portfolio, growing that to 145. The majority of the areas that I work on when I wear that hat is fintech and health tech. So how do we bring financial inclusion, especially to the underserved, the underrepresented, the unsupported, those that might be invisible to us. Similarly, in the health tech space, so thinking about from an SDG or UN Sustainable Development Goal perspective, how do we bring quality healthcare to anyone and everyone around the world? I also, within the world of IBM, lead student strategy for my division, so the IBM Z division of IBM, and that's how do we bring young people, how do we bring students, how do we bring lifelong learners into tech, whether that's in hardcore technical fields like computer science or data science, but really thinking about how do we make tech and the industry more accessible to anyone and everyone, especially young girls or people with disabilities. I have my own nonprofit called MentorNations. We have a co-working space, an IoT lab, and a robotics lab in Tunis, Tunisia, so sandwiched between Algeria and Libya. We've taught tens of thousands of young people to code in 12 countries. And then I'm in the process of launching my new startup, which I don't know if I've had a chance to brief you on it yet, Deborah, but it's all about preparing the world for the future of work. It's an ed tech platform that covers digital skills and readiness, entrepreneurial thinking, and professional development.
Wow.
I could go on and on with a bunch of other things that I do with the IEEE, the UN, et cetera, but I don't want to overwhelm you by peeling the onion entirely today.
And it's, if you want something done, give it to someone with ADHD, because, and I think it's funny that society has decided people with ADHD are broken, because we're not. We're hyperactive, but if you have ADHD,
and we're sitting here picking our fingernails as we're talking underneath the desk.
My partner Richard, he does his leg, but he does his leg so that people can't see he's doing that. But this is not. We're not broken. We're fixing the world. I love people like you that are just really not afraid to say, it's not being done. I'm going to do it. Come on, join me. Let's go for it. If you don't like the way the world works right now, what you doing to make it better? And that's why I really appreciate your work. And I know, Melissa, that like you said, you've done so much and you're doing so much, and congratulations on becoming a doctor. That is huge. That's such a huge
especially after getting kicked out of the program twice. I always talk about that because I think that no matter what it is that we're trying to achieve, or no matter what we have achieved already, it's not like it's this like easy path where you're like, I've got this goal, I want to go do this thing, and I'm going to go do the thing, and there's nothing that gets in the way. I have a good friend of mine, Brian, who always like tells my doctoral journey much less problem oriented and how it really was. He's, wow, one day she came to me and she said, I'm going to be a doctor. And then all of a sudden she was a doctor. And I'm like, that's really not how it works. But okay, I appreciate the level of confidence that you have in me to talk about how easy my path was. Okay, I'll take it.
Yeah, it was just that simple. Everybody could do it. I'm a doctor in that my initials are DR. Does that count? Okay, no, that doesn't count.
Hey, okay. I'm all for it, but I will tell you, it was definitely a long journey of figuring out what do I want to research, getting my research done. And my research was happening at the height of the pandemic, if one can say that, because I think we're still in it, and I don't know when the height is. At any rate, when we were still figuring out what all this was about. And I was supposed to actually go to a number of different Native American pueblos and reservations, because my research is on the digital inclusion of underserved and underrepresented communities, and the tie that access skills and utilization of technology, what role that plays when it comes to driving outcomes like economic independence, quality education, good healthcare and well-being, agricultural outcomes. And imagine you've gotten all your study parameters, methodology, and all of that stuff approved, and then COVID happens and you are not allowed to step foot into a reservation. Thankfully, I was able to morph that into actually doing it over the phone, because I could not do it through the internet, through like Zoom or any of these other products, because the people I set out to interview did not have access to the internet in their homes. So it was a long journey, but thankfully I made it past those hurdles.
But it's such an important journey, because this is about the digital divide, and Indigenous people with disabilities too. Whoa. And I'm very proud that my great grandmother was a Cherokee.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and it's doesn't really trickle enough to me, but I'm so proud of it. The rest of my heritages, I'm very white.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that, because one of the things that I struggled with, because I was very interested in researching this topic, was, am I the right person to have a voice? And should I be the one? And am I taking over the voice of someone else? Am I replacing someone else's voice who should be front and center instead of me? Because right or wrong, good or bad, I was born a white woman. And,
who wants to help? Right. Sorry. Me too.
And it took me a long time to really sit down and talk with a number of different individuals to develop that level of comfort that, yes, you can talk to me. Yes, what you say is held in strict confidence. And yes, I will do my best to represent in a way that I can without taking over that voice. And that's always a fine line that I think is important, of how do I support underrepresented or underserved communities without taking over that voice and having a voice for someone when in reality you may not have ever been in their shoes before.
Oh, that is such a powerful point because I agree. I remember one time on Twitter, white privilege was trending. And that term obviously scares me. But I thought, so I went out and I was looking at what people were saying, and they were saying really stupid stuff, which, oh, one time I was stopped by a police officer, but I'm white, so they let me off. Okay. And I'm sure that's true.
Welcome to the, welcome to internet chatter.
Yes, yes, yes. So I'm sure that's true. But I thought about whether or not I was going to be brave enough to wade in. And I thought, yes, you are. So I went in and I said, with my white privilege, I'm prying the door open and holding it open while the other people come in, the disadvantaged people, the people we've forgotten about, the people we've excluded. That's what I'm doing with my privilege. And also I'm privileged because I was born in the United States. And so I had more resources than somebody born in a developing country. I think it's so important in the point you made, but I also think we have to help. But at the same time, there's a balance of when you turn the mic over almost. So I've experienced that with building Billion Strong, because Billion Strong is all about the 1.3 billion people in the world with disabilities and all the friends and family members that love us, but at the same time, everyone else in society that wants everybody to be included in a meaningful way. But I was going to be the CEO at first, Melissa. And then I've said this on air before, but Yuval, who's a friend of mine in Access Israel, said, oh, good, a white woman's going to start a disability organization. And I said, oh, gosh, I've done so much. I am a person with neurodiversity. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. But at the same time, I listened and I thought about it. And why did it hurt my feelings? That right there, if something hurts your feelings, I think it's a good opportunity to take it out and explore why. And I think why was because he was right. And so I am not the CEO, even temporarily, a Billion Strong, Dr. Lamondre Pugh, a man with lived experiences of multiple disabilities and an African-American man that grew up in the southern part of the United States, which is typically more prejudiced towards people of color, is the CEO and should be, and he's talented. So that representation matters. Yeah, really came into it. So I just wanted to dovetail on that because I think it's such an important part. We don't want you not to help, Melissa, because you're white. Yeah, because definitely with our Native American people, their voices are not being heard. It's horrible what we've done to our indigenous people all over the world.
100%. And it's often hard for you to have that right level of self-reflection and have that right level of confidence in yourself to be able to know when do you step back and step down, and when does that actually make you more of a leader than seeing it as, well, wait a second, I stepped down and I'm not the one, I'm not the face, I'm not the voice. But I think
do I not matter anymore? Do I not matter? Am I not valuable? Am I right?
I think it's, part of having humility and just knowing, but we don't often know when that right time is. And sometimes it smacks us in the face. Right. And we took it too far and realized, wait a second, and that's dovetails nicely, I think, for me into when I created our nonprofit MentorNations in Tunisia. I said, I don't think I should be the local face and voice for this. As a matter of fact, I think this should be youth-led, it should be locally led, and I should be the mentor, hence the Mentor Africa, which is where that came about. But just to dare to support and cheerlead and advise when you need me versus me always being the one who is front and center. So when it comes to the work there, I'm not front and center and everything. And then with my new startup, I have a co-founder who's also from the continent, actually from Tunisia as well. And we both have our individual strengths and weaknesses. And I'm better at the business development, more business aspects of things. He's better more at the tech aspects of things. But what I find is he's often cheerleading me along, like, yes, we can do this. And yes, you've got clout. And think about how many people you're going to go out and get that funding, and you're going to go out and do the thing just like you were meant to do. And yes, you are going to be the face on this piece, but on that piece, nope, I'm going to be the face. And we get along well and it flows nicely.
Because we have to do it together. We're stronger together, which is why I love your work and that you are one of the global advisors for Billion Strong, because Your work is so important, and making sure that the youth, especially our disadvantaged youth all over the world and our entrepreneurs, I know that Billion Strong, we're very committed to supporting entrepreneurs with disabilities. Why? It's really hard to be an entrepreneur. It's really, really hard.
It's hard being an entrepreneur without having ADHD. And as a matter of fact, my co-founder from my startup, he was born with, and I'm not going to know the correct scientific term, and he'd be okay with me speaking about this, but he was born without one of his hands. And he's got, instead of having the fingers on his hands, he's got the little balls that are, and I again, there's a scientific term for it, a medical term. I don't remember what it is. It's hard to pronounce, but he went through a lot of struggles as a young person growing up in North Africa. And it even started before he even was able to talk or speak or move, where the community had certain judgments around what could be possible for this, child born with such a disability. And that fueled his passion to learn computer science. It fueled his passion to create a robotic arm that worked off of the muscle movement in his arm. It connected in with a mobile application. And this was still when he was in university, he's no longer in university, but he created this affordable prosthetic that worked with the muscle movement and the app. And They won first place in the country in Microsoft Imagine Cup, which is a kind of coding competition for students. They won first place regionally across the Middle East and Africa. And the first time I met him was when I was at Microsoft, and he was presenting this. And they won, I think, second place or runner-up in the worldwide Imagine Cup competition, and got thousands of dollars from Microsoft. So for me, knowing that my co-founder and I both have our own unique strengths, we also have our own unique disabilities, empowering others around us and enabling them to have access to fair opportunities is super important to us. Whether that's when we're teaching coding skills or entrepreneurial thinking, or it's just a matter of looking around and saying, who's on our team, and is our team reflective of our audience?
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I definitely would like to have him on the show. So I'm hoping you will please introduce me.
Oh, yeah, I will. By the way, he's seen snow for the first time today. He's never seen snow, and today it's snowing in Texas.
Which is, yes. And how much snow? Is it real light, or?
It looks like it's not covering the ground quite yet, but it's snowing pretty. You can see it. You can see it. It's 20 some odd degrees here Fahrenheit. So I expect us to get a whole heck of a lot more, and we'll see how the snow impacts Ziad, knowing that he's never seen it before. But yeah,
I know. And I can identify with that because I grew up in Florida, and I never saw snow except on television until I moved to Virginia. And so I still get excited about snow. Even though I've been in Virginia 25 years, it's snowing. So I get it. Anyway, but I definitely want to have him on the show because, wow, what a story. But your story of leadership, Melissa, I just so appreciate everything you're doing because you're helping so many people.
It comes from a deeply personal place, Deborah, and where it came from. I've told the story before, and it's what fuels my passion. A lot of people ask me, like, why are you so passionate about like digital inclusion and technology entrepreneurship, youth empowerment, empowering women and girls, standing up loud and proud, knowing that you are neurodivergent, you do have mental health challenges. What fuels that? My children and I have three, Zahra, Zahran, and Yumna. Now Zahra is 20, Zahran is 17, and Yumna is 15.
Wow.
My children and I are victims of parental kidnapping. When my children were 3, 5, and 7. They were picked up from their school, taken to the airport, and taken to Tunisia, their father's home country, without my knowledge nor my permission.
Wow.
And because of a lot of the challenges at that time in country with bureaucracy, red tape, corruption, just certain slants toward certain religious values, or lack thereof, depending upon who you talk to, I wasn't able to get my kids back, and I couldn't do so through legal means. And I didn't feel comfortable taking on a renegade, role of going out and having a bunch of former special forces agents go in and kidnap the kids and us bury people in the desert. I figured that might not be a good path. I figured there could be other more productive paths, albeit hard. So I played the long game in the sense of recognizing that I'd get my kids back eventually, as long as I let my kids know that I love them. They have a mother who cares about them. I knew exactly where they were, which I'm in a very fortunate situation, comparatively speaking, to a lot of other parents who've been faced with this dilemma. But one day, my daughter was talking to me, my oldest, and this is going back probably 7 years ago, something like that. She said to me, and I was working at Microsoft at the time, she said to me, "Mommy, I'm learning Microsoft." And that's her accent. I'm like, "What do you mean?" And I realized that she was learning Word in her classroom, and that the students in the classroom did not have access to but one device. And I knew that my child would be left behind. And obviously that's critical for me. But I looked around the classroom and I thought, wow, there are 30, 40 kids in this one classroom. And that exponentially grows across other classrooms and other schools. And I didn't set out to change the world. I was in like a normal job, doing normal stuff. I got a paycheck, and I was just doing the thing that normal people do. You wake up, you go to work, you have lunch with your friends maybe, or whatever. You get your job done. They need you to do your job. You get your paycheck. And I thought, I need to get some computers into our classroom. So I set on this mission to get these computers into our classroom. Went from me having this idea of getting computers into our classroom, went from that little spark of idea to getting Microsoft and HP to send 400 laptops to 20 schools across the country. Wow. And then me deciding with a crew of Microsoft student ambassadors to go out and teach kids to code around the country. So we traveled around the country teaching kids to code. That led us to creating a company, which led me to recognizing that this is my life's work. Like, my life's work is, how do we get more young people connected to tech? How do we make sure that they have the digital skills necessary to make meaningful use of the internet? And how do we drive outcomes? Those same outcomes that I mentioned when I talked about my research for my PhD. And that's quality education, good health and well-being, economic prosperity, access to a stable food supply that maybe comes from ag tech, and all of the many things that technology can bring if local people in local communities with local problems, if they can take that tech and take those skills and use those two things together to solve the world's wickedest challenges. So in a nutshell, that's my life's work. And I will tell you, my children now are safe and healthy and normal kids, as normal as like teenagers could be. Trust me, they are They are like, if I can say batshit crazy, they definitely are sometimes. But
I imagine everybody is these days.
Yes, I know I am in my own respect.
Yeah.
And Zara just came back to the United States after turning 18. So she's here now.
Yeah.
And the two younger ones, once they turn 18, again, they're 15 and 17, they plan to make their pathway back home again, naturally staying connected to their roots. And my goal is not to take them away from their roots, because regardless of what's happened to them, what's happened to us, what's happened to the world around us, that's their story and that's what's happened to them. And it's not about how do you be a victim of your circumstances, even if you may have looked back and think, wow, I could have done that. I should have done that. I would have done that if I'd known. It's about taking your stuff, the stuff that makes you most vulnerable, your worst nightmare, and turning that into your superpower.
Oh, that is so brilliant. And it is not trivial to have your children kidnapped. Even
it was the worst time in my life. I have friends who slept on my couch for a year. Everyone was afraid I would off myself, which I technically, was on the verge many times, and my friends knew it. And thankfully they were there to say, you know what, you're not asking for help. We know you need help, and we're just going to continue showing up and being here, because we know that it's hard for you to talk about what's going through your mind.
It's too big. It's too big.
It's too big to unpack. And it's not something you can unpack on your own. You need professional support. You need medication. You need, I'm not saying you as in everyone else.
No, I understand.
What I needed in my personal experience.
You had to take care of yourself. You had to. But I think because we are all going to have bad stuff happen to us. My family's in hospice right now. Thank God for hospice. But if it doesn't kill you, it will make you stronger. And what you did was you channeled this in a way to help thousands and thousands of people. And you've only just begun. So I know that I've kept you on longer than I said, but I love your work. I love your work. And so I wanted my audience to know who Dr. Melissa Sassi is. And so tell them how they can connect with you. How can they learn about your work?
Yeah. So I think, the easiest way right now is through Twitter and LinkedIn. I'm at Mentor Africa with a K. That I'm very active on Twitter. I also have my own website, which you can find at melissasassi.com. I'm in the process of launching my new startup, which I will be on a fundraising mission soon. You'll be able to check that out very soon. Yay. If you go to any of my profiles, you won't see it up there, but I'm easy to find. Dr. Melissa Sassi. You can also Google Chief Penguin, which is that fun title that I created in my role at IBM, which I'm still very much engaged in, and I'm in for the long haul. But search me out, find me, and I'm always happy to chat, engage, and to see how we can work together.
I agree. And when you have the link, please send it to me so we can include it with your episode. And also,
I will. Once things formally launch, absolutely. But for the time being, I'll give you all the links that you need. And I'm always open to connect, collaborate, share ideas, empower one another.
I agree. And I want you to come back on the show to tell us what's going on as you proceed, and we all work together. This is what we do.
That sounds great.
Stronger together. We're stronger together. Melissa, thank you so much for being on the show today. Thank you to the audience, and everybody, please go out and join www.billion-strong.org. It's free, but we need you. And we're going to definitely support what Melissa's doing, because this is how we change the world. Yes. I agree. So thank you, Melissa. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Talk to y'all soon.
You've been listening to Human Potential at Work. To learn more about Rue Global Impact, visit rueglobal.com. And to learn more about Billion Strong, an identity and empowerment organization designed to bring the billions of voices of persons with disabilities together, you can join the global community and donate at billion-strong.org. That's billion-strong.org.